stand together, we'll never fall.
Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Today is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, and this is episode number 514 of a show where we talk about all-around growth. Growth in 7 different aspects of life: financial, physical, personal development, family, spiritual, social, and career, along with many other topics as of late, and quite frankly, many other topics throughout the history of the show. But today we are kind of doing a bit of a throwback series, and what I mean by that is we are going to revisit some of the episodes in the past, the top 5 episodes for the month of September. And this episode, number 5 of the top 5, is a retake or a revisiting of episode number, let's see here, episode number 309, The Merry-Go-Round of My Blank Life. And I titled it The Merry-Go-Round of My Blank Life because, if memory serves me correctly, I utilized this topic of the show that was originally recorded in, let's see when this was recorded. Is this going to tell me, or is it going to make me think? I believe that this show was recorded on March 21st of 2022. And at that time, I read this and I titled it The Merry-Go-Round of My Blank Life because, if I'm not mistaken, I thought that this particular reading was applicable to all aspects of life. And the reading I'm referring to comes from The Rudder of the Day, a book by Dan Miller, titled accordingly. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this book, it is a book that I referenced frequently in earlier episodes of the podcast, and every once in a while reference from time to time today. And this book is basically a great way to start the day, and the rear of the book reads as follows. The first 60 minutes of each day will set the stage for what that day will hold. Be very careful how you start your day. In those first few minutes, you are planting the seeds for your effectiveness, influence, health, and spiritual vitality for that day. If you get up late, grab a cup of coffee and a Twinkie, rush to work fighting the idiots in traffic, and drop down exhausted at your desk 10 minutes late, you have just set the tone for everything that will happen that day. Every task will seem like pressure, and your best efforts will be greatly diluted. Now, I don't know about you, but I have developed a bit of a new morning routine and have been following that for several months right now, or recently rather, and have been doing so relatively consistently. I did, or engaged in that routine rather, this morning, and today has been a good day. Now, I am on the road right now. I am on my way back to Medina, currently in the big city. We're going to get ready and hit the road after this reading. You may hear the hazard lights in the background and some traffic beside me because I am pulled off the side of the road, getting ready to read this, get on the highway, and am in about the safest spot that I can be before jumping on the highway. So just like the old days, let's go ahead, read this, and then I will talk about this episode. And then later today, if you are interested as well, you can listen to episode 309, The Merry-Go-Round of My Blank Life. I will go ahead and link to this episode in the show notes, and I will also listen to it myself to see where I was at on March 21st, 2022, and also reflect on, where I was, where I'm at now, and what the future's got in store moving forward. So the original the original writing is on page 108 of The Rudder of the Day. It's titled The Merry-Go-Round of My Professional Life, and it begins as follows. Do you feel like your life is moving forward, or are you just going around in circles? Quote, Dan, the merry-go-round of my professional life has left me no farther than a few steps from where I got on, and with a weak stomach. Close quote. Many times a career path starts because of circumstances rather than priorities. Family expectations, chance occurrences, a friendly teacher, or seeking money can lead us down an unfulfilling career path. It's tough to make good choices at 18 that will be meaningful at 45. Just recently, I saw a 44-year-old client who opened with the comment, quote, I'm tired of living my life based on the decisions made by an 18-year-old, close quote. Quote, the man who does nothing, excuse me, the man who does things makes mistakes, but he never makes the biggest mistake of all, doing nothing, close quote. That's a quote from Benjamin Franklin. If your work life is not providing a sense of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment, draw a line in the sand. Decide what the ideal day would look like. How would you spend your time? What skills you would use? Money is ultimately never enough compensation for investing one's time and energy. There must be a sense of meaning and accomplishment, and yet a surprising thing frequently happens on the way to fulfillment and worthy contribution. Rather than learning to live on beans and rice, there is often the release of a financial flood. A former pastor who is now a well-known artist relates that his income is 8 to 10 times what it was previously, and this while finding authenticity in his God-given uniqueness. The frustrated corporate executive who is now a web content and book writer tells me that she has reduced her work week hours by 2/3, but has increased her income 3 times over. Scott Adams of Dilbert fame escaped the cubicle and became a multimillionaire with his doodling. Quote, the rung of a ladder was never meant to rest upon, but only to hold a man's foot long enough to enable him to put the other somewhat higher, close quote. Thomas H. Huxley. Life is too short for merry-go-round sameness. If you take that image, you know that if you step off a moving merry-go-round, you will have momentum that will project you straight out in some direction. But rather than allowing that to be a random choice, think through the desired direction first. Then take that step, expecting the inertia to give you a jump start to a whole new level of success. Believe that a life of purpose and meaning is your best source of financial success as well. I hope that it's no secret that it's easier to make money doing something you love than doing something you hate. Success is not an accident. And before we hit the road and ask ourselves a couple questions to provide some direction for today, we'll take a quote from the Bible, which comes from Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. And finally, before we hit the road, the questions that will provide some direction for today is, what is an area of your life where you are on a merry-go-round? How can you make that step off? All right, guys, let's hit the road and talk about those questions and talk about the reading for today. All right? Before we answer those questions, before we dive into those questions that will provide some direction for today, I'm not entirely sure why this particular episode is one of the top 5. If you have any idea, I'm curious what you might think. Again, the episode that I'm referencing is episode number 309, The Merry-Go-Round of My Blank Life. And at that time, in March of 2022, which was approximately 18 months ago, I was still employed at my day job. I wasn't fully prepared for what the next few months had in store, and ultimately I ended up leaving that day job sooner than expected in May. I say sooner than expected because my original plan was to work for the duration of the 2022 season and leave in the winter of 22-23. But the reality is, sometimes when you make a plan, your plans change. And if you don't make a plan, then you're just running amidst the chaos of life. And I had a plan, but the plan changed. Sometimes that happens. And looking back, hindsight's always 20/20. And looking back, I'm grateful that the plan changed. I'm grateful that things didn't work out the way that I initially wanted them to work out. Why? Am I grateful that things didn't work out the way that I had originally planned? Well, I'm grateful because I left my job earlier than expected. I got to work with my dad all season long last year. And I ended up having the opportunity to do that and have one full year with him in its entirety before he was diagnosed with cancer earlier this year and passed away. My father's no longer here on this earth, and yes, he's in a better place, but we're gonna have to turn that down. He's in a better place, but if I had stuck with that original plan, I would not have had the opportunity to spend the time with him that I did, to learning the craft from him that I learned, to really understanding all of the recipes and developing some of them with him, like the kimchi, for example. And that's where I am right now. I'm coming back from the big city. For those of you who are in the Telegram group, t.me/allaroundgrowth, we're always talking about what we're doing for the day. Hashtag my3things, mugshots, sharing mugshots, talking about what we're doing for the day. And, everybody that's in the Telegram group knows that I'm up in the big city picking up produce, running to the Asian market, picking up Napa cabbage and daikon radish and ginger to make another batch of kimchi. And that was a recipe that I'm grateful that I got to develop and fine-tune with Dad. The others are solely of his making. This one we got to tweak together and work on together, right? So, plans can change, but if you don't have a plan, you got nothing to change. All right? So, these questions, what is an area of your life where you are on a merry-go-round, and how can you make that step off? Well, I don't know. Only you can answer that question, right? Are you in some sort of merry-go-round of life in your financial life, your physical life? A merry-go-round of personal development? A merry-go-round with family? A merry-go-round with your spiritual life? A merry-go-round with your social life? A merry-go-round with your career? That's what this is all about, this particular reading of the Rudder of the Day, the merry-go-round of my professional life. When we ask ourselves in the beginning, do you feel like your life is moving forward, or are you just going around in circles? Sometimes that's what it feels like in our careers, and luckily today, I don't feel that way. I I got to the point in my professional life where I don't go on with a weak stomach. There's stories in this reading where we read about a former pastor who is now working as an artist, and his income is 8 to 10 times that which it was previously. The frustrated corporate executive who is now a web content designer and book writer. And this particular individual reduced her work week by 2/3, but has increased her income 3 times over. I am in a separate or a little bit of a different position. I've increased my work week. I've increased the amount of time to decrease my salary, to decrease my income, and pretty significantly at that. I, right now, am the poorest I've ever been in terms of finance, right? I got involved in a family business that I didn't really understand. And quite frankly, I don't even know if my father understood the nature of his business. It was something that he did as a hobby. It was originally something that was done to provide some supplementary income to his day job. It was something that Mom also worked in and with to provide some supplementary income. Now, they made some money doing this, but it was like bonus money. You know, that wasn't their primary source of income. So, you know, the profit and loss statements weren't, well, first of all, I'm not entirely sure they were ever looked at. But as long as there was more money coming in than there was going out, it was a positive thing. Time didn't really matter. You know, it wasn't treated like a business. And I got a better understanding of that when I first started working with Dad last year. And that was a big sticking point in terms of our relationship with one another, because I left my day job to grow this business, to help him turn this into a financially viable business. And my stance on this, being about 30 years younger than my dad, was a lot different than my dad's stance on it. I was a lot more motivated. I was a lot more incentivized to track the numbers, you know, monitor the data, monitor the finances, although he controlled those, so to speak, and wasn't necessarily very forthright with the information unless I pressed him about it. And then those conversations got real awkward real quick. And oftentimes this is the case with a family business. But at the end of the day, you know, I work on my terms. I'm learning how to navigate the world of self-employment, the world of family business, the world of community, getting involved in my local community, working in collaboration with others to manage the homestead. We've got a tenant farmer now. We've had one for a couple of years. We're going to lease out another parcel of the land soon to the neighbor across the street, and I'll just keep the thoughts on that there for now until we hash out some additional details and actually make progress with that plan. But we are working in conjunction with fellow farmers, and yeah, she's a farmer too. just the nature of her farm is a little bit different than a traditional market farmer or a traditional row crop farmer. And that's really no different than the nature of Cody's farming, our tenant farmer. The nature of his farming is a lot different than a traditional, quote, farmer. You know, the type of farmer that everybody thought of when we were kids. You know, Farmer Joe, driving his tractor around, planting crops, or tending to the animals. That's not the kind of farming that we do here on our homestead. That's not the type of farmers that we are. Our farm is not traditional in the sense of a farm, even though where these episodes are released from is from a place called York Meadow Farm. It is not what you would think of in terms of the conventional sense of the word farm. Now, as we reread this passage, you know, we're thinking about our lives, our professional lives, and how our life is structured around our profession, right? And we begin this passage asking ourselves and reflecting on things like, if your work life is not providing a sense of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment, draw a line in the sand. You know, draw a line in the sand. What does that mean to you? Well, to me, it means exactly that. Find something that provides meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. And oftentimes, in order to find meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in your professional life, it doesn't necessarily require finding a new profession. It doesn't necessarily require quitting your job and going to, you know, a different job or starting your own job or starting your own business or doing whatever it is that you need to do to, you know, find enlightenment, right? And enlightenment being meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Sometimes finding meaning, purpose, and fulfillment is something that simply happens with a shift in perspective. Even if we work a shit job, you know, with people we don't like, that don't like us for whatever reason, you know, we got to think about, well, why don't they like us? Could it be that my own behavior exacerbates the character defects that they all have within them? Because, I mean, let's face it, guys. Everybody in our lives has some sort of character defect. But who's the biggest person in our lives? That's ourselves. And if we fail to realize that us as individuals have character defects, then that's a major flaw. You know, it's kind of like seeking forgiveness from the things that we've done to others, the ways in which we've wronged them. We can't really seek forgiveness from anybody about anything unless we are willing to forgive others first. When we begin making changes in our lives, we begin to recognize the changes in others in how they approach us as individuals. And oftentimes it's not even necessarily that they are changing, but we are changing, right? And there's a lot of different ways that we can change. You know, we can work our lives and restructure our lives to get out of debt. Don't think it's possible? Then you're never gonna get there. Flat out. Getting out of debt requires sacrifice. It requires change. It requires maybe working a second job. It requires sacrificing some things from your life. Netflix subscriptions, the Instacart subscription, the Costco subscription, Sam's Club, the this, the that, the other thing, right? It requires making sacrifices. You aren't willing to make those sacrifices, then you're willing to stay burdened with the financial baggage that you have because making change is too painful for you. It's more comfortable to stay in the same patterns that you've been in for eternity. Maybe the change you need to make involves your physical health and well-being. Maybe you're fat. Maybe you're overweight. Maybe you've got some gastrointestinal problems. Whatever. I say it like that because I've been that guy. I've been fat. I've been overweight. Still am. Put on damn near 30 pounds since Dad got sick and died. Have I done much about it recently? No. Am I happy with myself? No. Do I plan on doing something about that at some point? Yeah. But is it having the negative impact on me that it once did? No. My focus is elsewhere in life right now. But I'll tell you what, when I increased my financial well-being, it became easier to focus on my physical well-being. When I increased my health and wellness with regard to my financial life and my physical life, all of a sudden I was able to do more and grow more with regard to personal development. When I got those three things aligned and in line, my family relations improved. My spiritual life improved after my family life improved. Wouldn't you know it, my social life improved, and ultimately my career improved. But there was no longer this merry-go-round of a professional life. Because I've read this, and I realized that I was already on this path to recognizing that life indeed is too short for merry-go-round sameness. Right? So what do I mean by that? And what does this mean? Well, we read that if we take that image, we know that if we step off a moving merry-go-round, we will have momentum that will project us straight out into some direction. But rather than allowing that to be a random choice, think through the desired direction first. How can we change our life? How can we change the way in which we approach our jobs to affect the direction of stepping off of this merry-go-round? And maybe stepping off the merry-go-round of our professional life isn't, like I said, maybe it isn't leaving your job. Maybe the reasons that you are working the job that you hate so much, maybe there are more pros to sticking it out for the short term, whether the short term is 3 months or 3 years. Maybe the pros outweigh the cons of leaving, the stress of change. Okay? Maybe they don't. Maybe you think that they do and claim that they do because you're afraid of doing something different. I don't know. That's for you to decide, right? But again, regardless of the circumstances that we're in, we've got to make a choice. We've got to do something. And we can go to work and we can be unhappy and every day sucks, and basically do what the back of the book did. We can wake up, start our day, whatever. Because if we can wake up late, we can grab a cup of coffee and a Twinkie or freaking breakfast burrito on the road or some McDonald's or whatever and rush to work and, get there right on time or a little bit late, be frustrated, and then that's basically how we're going to spend our day. But if we get into a schedule where we wake up a little early, develop some good habits, have some time for meditation and prayer in the mornings, maybe work out in the morning, whatever the case may be. If we do that and we do it consistently, we begin to change how we approach the day. And we get to a point where no matter what life throws at us in any particular day, it is possible to get to a point where no matter what's going on in life, every day is the best day. Bullshit, Rob. I don't think so. Yeah, that sounds real easy for you to say. Well, it's not real easy for me to say. It's not, because I've spent years, literal years, trying to get to a point, actively reprogramming and repatterning my brain to the point where this was true. I believed it was possible that every day could be my best day. I struggled with it for a long time. And then all of a sudden I realized that it is true. It's happening. Even the day my father died, it was my best day. What? No, I'm not a psycho. It's just the truth. During the time my father was sick, we all knew what was coming. We all knew that it would happen someday. I made the best of the situation that I could. Spent as much time with him as I could. Tried to get my own self right, my own mind right, so that I could be there to support him, to support my family, to support those that hurt. Yeah, did I hurt too? Yeah, absolutely. But I've been working hard to be strong, because you know what? Not everyone else is. And sometimes being the one that's able to support others in a time of pain, their burdens don't weigh us down. They end up strengthening us as well. It's kind of like a workout, right? We lift weights. We do cardio. We get tired. We break our bodies down. We come back stronger, healthier, so that next time around in the workout or the run, we can do more, lift more, run longer, run faster, be better, handle harder, better. And there's a little video that was sent to me by someone in my life called Handle Hard Better, from a basketball coach. I think might be Duke women's basketball team. I don't know. I'll link to it in the show notes after the fact. But it's a brief, 5-minute video of what we do to handle hard better. It's this consistent work on ourselves, strengthening our mental fortitude, so that when life dishes out these challenging times, we don't simply cave in, collapse. We handle it better, right? Because when we do work on ourselves, we get to a point where we actually do believe that a life of purpose and meaning is the best source of financial success as well. Now, this reading is talking about the professional life, but when we live a life of meaning and purpose, we begin to understand that not only can it be the best source of financial success, but it can be the best source of our physical health and wellness. It can be the best source of fodder for personal development. It can be the best source of content, if you will, to strengthen our family relationships. Whatever the circumstances of life that we're in, job or not, it can be the best source of everything. And it can be the best source of everything because it becomes that way when we change our perspective. And how do we do that? How do we change our perspective? Set goals, right? Okay. How do you set goals? Well, there's all kinds of ways that we can set goals. In the past, I used to do something that was an exercise that I learned from Tim Ferriss about. It was less an exercise about setting goals, but it was about doing a past year review and identifying the 10 things that I was not going to do in the next year, like my next year not to do list. And that's one way of looking at it. And I've tried all kinds of ways over the years to set goals. Even doing things like this where I figured out what it was that I wasn't going to do. Because maybe by eliminating certain things in life, I could figure out what it was that I was going to do. But so far, the best way that I've been able to think about and approach goals is by using Dan Miller's goal setting workbook. And again, I'm talking about Dan Miller's book, The Rudder of the Day. I have a lot of respect for Dan Miller. Dan Miller's goal setting workbook is the reason why I talk about these 7 aspects of life: financial, physical, personal development, family, spiritual, social, and career. And I know that some of you guys might get tired of me talking about Dan Miller, but you know what? Dan Miller, the book 48 Days to the Work and Life You Love, the community that he's got, the 48 Days Eagles, the goal setting workbook, and something else that I'm involved in right now, those things have provided me with tools and resources in order to do exactly that, change my perspective. And one big thing that's going on right now, if you follow the show, you may also be aware that today is day 5 of the 30-day Strangest Secret Challenge. Well, what's that? These are unnumbered episodes, right? Today is episode 514, maybe 515, I don't know. You guys will have to let me know in the chat on social media, Telegram or elsewhere, if I screwed up announcing the show. But the Strangest Secret Challenge is where we in the community, the 48 Days community on Facebook, listen to The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale every day for 30 days. It's a 32-minute recording. It's less than 35 minutes, but it's about a half an hour of content that will change your life if you let it and if you're willing to do the work. And it requires one simple thing, that we set a goal, a tangible, identifiable goal for 30 days. Write it on an index card. The steps are outlined at about the 20 and 25 minute mark of the recording. I'll link to this in the show notes as well, just so it's easy to reference, right? The recording that we're all using. Maybe there's all kinds of recordings available on the internet, but this is the one that we're using as a group. I'll also link to the link so that you can sign up for the challenge. It's free. It gives you the opportunity to connect with others in the 48 Days Facebook group. It allows you to find the specific recording that we are using, and it gives you the opportunity to download a free 17-page workbook that allows you to think through this. Think of it as an addendum to the goal-setting workbook, which I've linked to many times in the past, and I'll link to again in the show notes because it is that good. All of these are tools and mechanisms that give us the opportunity to change our perspective. And that's what we need to do if we feel like we're simply on a merry-go-round in our professional life, or our financial life, or our physical life, or whatever the case may be. No matter where you are in life, no matter what the struggle is with your finance, with your health, with your weight, with your family, with your social circles, whatever, a change in perspective can create an environment that facilitates monumental change in your life without actually making any kind of change whatsoever, right? And I don't know if that makes sense, but really try to wrap your head around that. It is possible to experience tremendous change in life by changing absolutely nothing other than our perspective. But getting to the point where we are able to change our perspective requires a lot of work. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it's not easy. But with consistent practice, it's possible. It's not just possible, it's a promise. If you do these things that I've suggested and talked about in today's episode, you will experience the same change of perspective that I have. And what is that going to result in for you? I don't know. But I can tell you what it's resulted in for me. It's resulted in the most peace of mind that I've ever had in my life. The ultimate feeling of contentment every day. Happiness, serenity, peace, which is something that I never really experienced before in my life. I did at times, but those moments were fleeting at best. By listening to The Strangest Secret regularly, doing the work outlined in that recording, setting goals consistently, holding myself accountable, and sharing those goals with others so that they could help keep me accountable for when I failed to do so, which was a lot, I changed my perspective. I also made some other big changes in my life as well. But you don't have to do the same things I did. I don't have to do the same things you do. And we're all different people with different life circumstances. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to start a business. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything that I did. But you can change your entire life by changing your perspective. And if you want to change your life, then you've got some tools and resources to do that. So I guess the only question is, what's stopping you? So guys, I appreciate you tuning in today. Check out the Strangest Secret Challenge. Consider joining us and give it a shot. Thank you very much for listening today, and I look forward to catching you next week on another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.
The needs are many and answers a few. People turn away, and I wonder why. If I can help somebody, then I want to try. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love. And truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. I'm an odd fellow. I'm an odd fellow. If we stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference and answer the call. You know the times are wasting every day, and we can help somebody along the way. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love. Truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. You're an odd fellow.